Welcome back. Glad that you're here. We are building a movie app with best coding practices and tools. Till now in UI, we have made home screen, navigation drawer, and app dialog. We have till now focused on happy scenarios like making API calls that will never fail. But app will always have a happy path and no failure is a myth. So let's handle the errors when making API calls. If you remember, in the repositories and use case video, we have used Darts plugin. We have used only one feature of this plugin, that is either. The underlying concept is very simple. Return left when error, right when success. Left and right are object data holders. If you are coming to this tutorial directly, please visit that video first and come back. Although I recommend that you watch full series and all the previous tutorials in the series. In the repository layer, we used either left, right for all the methods. When making a service call in data source, if the service call is a success, we return the response in right object, and in case of any exceptions, we returned a app error in the left object. Now, what are the type of errors? Errors can be many types. It can be a service not responding, can be a parsing error, or sometimes when you try to internet access and then the internet is off, you will get an exception. For all those scenarios, we will return the left object. There can be many more errors that the TMDB API throws, like 501 for invalid service, 401 for authentication failed, 400 for validation failed, 500 internal server error, 503 the API is undergoing maintenance, try again later. Now these are just a few of the API status codes that I have listed down. You can get all of them from the official website. Now we will consider these errors as one type of error in the application, and hence will give only one generic message whenever there is any type of exception thrown by the API. We will also handle most popular type of error, that is network not connected error. So what do you do when you make an API call and there is no internet? Well, there are possibly two direct solutions. First, you can stop making API calls when you know there is no internet. Second, you make the call anyway, and upon socket exception, you can tell the user about no internet. To implement first option, you need to deal with platform-specific APIs that will observe the network changes. You will also need to make UX in such a way that user is not allowed to make any API call when there is no internet. No matter what option you choose, you will have to implement the second way in your app. Because imagine you make 5 subsequent calls and midway the user disables the network connection. So you will have to handle no network error anyway and intimate the user about the same. Here in the movie app as well, I will show you to implement the second approach only. So if you remember in the third tutorial, repositories and use case, we created a class AppError that holds a string message. Since our requirements have changed now, we need to slightly update this to now accept an enum instead of a dump string message. So first, create an enum with 2 values. API is for API exceptions and network is for internet. Instead of a string, use AppError type now. When you have updated the AppError class, you should get errors in the movie repository IMPL. So let's start updating these methods. First, you need to maintain the order of exceptions that you catch. So first handle socket exception. You will get this exception when network is not connected and you make the API call. You will return AppError with network type. Next, you will handle generic exception that will capture any other exception than socket exception. We are considering that any other exception thrown when making API call will be from API only. There can be one more exception, which can be when you are parsing a JSON, but I believe that is a logical programming mistake that can be handled while developing the application. So we are still handling that exceptions under API type. Now go on and update all the remaining methods in the repository IMPL file. Now, when there is an error, you need to show a text message and two buttons as I showcased before. We already have block builder in place in the home screen. So we will handle the extra state, that is movie carousel error, and return carousel load error widget. So open home screen and add else if statement. In the home/movie carousel folder, create a new file carousel load error widget.dart. This is a basic stateless widget. You also have to update the import in home screen so that you can run the application now. Turn off the network connection and restart the application. You will see that we cannot see the carousel widget as now the error widget is shown. So let's build this widget now. The error text depends on AppError type, so declare a final field. When you press the retry button, you will load the trending movies again. So declare movie carousel block to dispatch the carousel load event later. Now come back to the home screen and see there is an error because we need to add the required parameters in the carousel load error widget. You will easily get instance of the block, but to get AppError type in state, you need to pass it. Update movie carousel error state. Declare field for AppError type and introduce the constructor. Next, update the block to return the error type in that state. Fetch the error type from the left that we returned from the repository methods. This AppError type will be different when there is network error or API error. Before proceeding further, let's add the translation strings for error messages and the retry button. Update en.json. Now update es.json as well. And also update the translation constants.dart. Now after adding translations, you can create the UI in carousel load error widget. First, use column to lay out the elements vertically. For error message, use text widget. Based on error type, you will decide the string. Make all the text alignment in center and give it subtitle 1 style. You can see that the UI is starting from top. So let's make it in center by adding main axis size as max and main axis alignment as center. We will lay out the two buttons in horizontal direction. So use button bar. Button bar takes in children. Use the button that we created in previous videos. On tap of retry button, we will make another call to fetch the trending movies. The second button will open the wire bottom sheet that we worked on in the last video. Now our text is hugging the sidelines of the phone. So let's give it a little bit padding from the left and right hand side. Now restart the app. To see the API error message, you can change the API key in the API constants class and restart the app again. You can play with different scenarios now. Sometimes you will see API error and other time you will see the network error. Let's create generic error widget. How do you handle errors in calling the APIs that are called when we switch the tabs? There can be certain scenarios when carousel has loaded successfully but individual tabs haven't. So we will apply the same logic here as well. If we use the existing error widget, we will need to make it so generic that it handles the operation on tap of the retry button. You can do that by directly passing the onPressed method in the constructor of carousel load error widget instead of passing the block. So let's update carousel load error widget first to make it more generic. Instead of block, now pass in the function. In the button as well, instead of using the block, use the onPressed method. Now in the home screen, instead of passing the block itself, pass the functionality you want to perform on the retry button tab. So simply just add the functionality. Now run the app again by turning off the internet first and then turn on the internet and press the retry button. You will see retry working fine. Now you can rename this widget and move it to a common widgets folder as it has now become generic to be used anywhere in the application. You can rename it to AppError widget. Error handling in tabs. Nothing much changes in terms of how the functionality will work. When you switch between tabs, there is an API call made. So we will show AppError widget if the API throws error or when the network is off. In movie tabbed widget.dart, handle movie tab load error. First, handle the movie tab load error state below the movie tab changed state. Use the AppError widget and pass the error type. We haven't updated the movie tab load error with error type. We'll do it just after this. Now in onPressed method, hit the movie tab changed event that will make the API call again. You would have to call the movie tab changed event with the same tab index so that the movies are fetched with respect to the tab which is selected right now. Now update the movie tab load error state. Add the AppError type as a final field and add this field to the constructor as a required field. Now you need to update the movie tabbed block as well. So go to the place where you are yielding the state and update left side by adding error type in movie tab load error. Now how do you generate a scenario when trying to run this? You can comment out the current yielding statement and yield the error state all the time, just to test it out. Let's do it and run it. Comment out the existing statement and add the above statement. Add the movie tab load error yielding statement. Now run the app and you will see the error message when changing tabs. The error message should be in the middle. So go to movie tabbed widget and add expanded widget. Now reload and change the tab. Now you can play with it and in the various scenarios. Uncomment the commented code and reload. Tap on the retry button. The movies will be loaded now. Now the last error scenario. The scenario that I will now bring is not an error but considered as handling edge cases while you are developing the application. What will happen if the movies you are fetching are not there and you get an empty list of movies? How the UI will work? For that, in the movie tab block, you need to pass in the empty list. Even though you have received a successful list of movies, you will pass an empty list so that you can reproduce this scenario. If you run, you will see no movies being shown in the movie list view. In this case, we will show, no movies under this section when there are no movies present. So first update en.json. es.json and translation constants.dart. Now update the movie tabbed widget. In the movie tab changed if block, add the condition where if movies is null or empty you show the no movies text. Here we are using question mark dot operator because apart from empty movies list, the list can be null also. So if movies is null, you will return true. That will show the no movies text. If movies is empty or null, return an expanded center widget that will show the no movies text. Use the T method extension that will generate the translated message in different languages. Now you can play with all the scenarios that I have told you, and this is how we will handle error in future videos as well. I believe this tutorial has given much insight about error handling and edge cases handling. See you in the next part. Thank you. Thanks for watching. If this video helped you in learning something or other, then your like will help me a lot. I would love to hear back from you. If you are new to my channel, do subscribe and toggle on the notifications so that you never miss the future tutorials.